Hello, everyone. Welcome to our stream. Thank you for waiting. This is Mara from Nihon, and I'm with Layna today to reply some of your questions about how to reach your goal for 2024. We asked to you to tell us more about your goals, and I see that already some of you already wrote on the chat. Some of them. So we start first replying to the question you already sent to us, and Layna will start with that while I'm starting checking the chat. So please, if you have any question that you will share with us and want to know about more, please write in the chat and I will reply to you. So please, Layna, all yours.
Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you. My name is Layna. Thank you so much for sending in really interesting goals and questions for us to share with everyone today. I wanted to go through all the ones we received prior to the live stream. And I wanted to also just start off with one. Let me just read out the question. So, since my Japanese is bad, I'd like to improve as well as experience the culture. I'm not sure how to get into a school. So, sorry if I cough a little bit. If you can't hear anything, just tell me in the chat and I'll repeat myself. So, since this person is wanting to study Japanese in Japan at a language school, and also just immerse yourself in the culture, we would definitely recommend a long-term course of 6 months or more, just so you get the full learning experience in Japan. And let me just give you an overview of what the application process would look like. So usually it would take around 6 months to go through the entire application process. The first step is sending in an inquiry to us through our contact form on our website, and getting in touch with one of our coordinators. The coordinator will then ask you questions like, what are your Japanese learning goals? How much Japanese have you studied in the past? What would you like to do after you've graduated from language school studies? And then that will help you, or that would help the coordinator then give you some school options. You would then choose your school and the term that you'd like to apply for. So over the span of 6 months or so, we'll be helping you submit your application documents to the school. We'll also help you sort out accommodation in Japan. And you'll also be paying tuition fees, booking a flight, applying for and receiving your student visa, all within the 6 months. And then that's just a very simplified rundown of the application process. But you can also check out on our blog where we talk more about the process in detail, and also your coordinator will be able to assist you with all the steps, every step of the way. So don't feel overwhelmed or stressed or anything like that. Yeah, I'd just say the hardest part is really deciding that this is what you want to do, and deciding that that's what you want to do for yourself this year. So it's a really exciting goal. We hope you can help you with that. And yeah, since you've already made that decision, the hardest part is already over and there's nothing holding you back. So just send in an inquiry form and we hope to be able to help you from there. All right, moving on to the next question. I want to go to Japan to study Japanese in 2025. For this one, I wanted to focus a little bit more about the deadlines. For long-term applications, so the one that we just talked about, where you'll be studying as a student under a student visa, the application period for each intake will open around 1 year before the term start. So there are 4 intakes, January, April, July, and October. And let's just say, for example, you're interested in studying Japanese at a language school for the January 2025 term. In that case, we can already get your application started in January 2024, so now. And then the application will be due around 6 months before the term starts. So let's say January 2025 is the term that you've decided on, you know which school you want to apply for. Make sure to send in an inquiry as early as possible, now, if possible, 1 year before the term starts, because our partner language schools do run out of spots pretty quickly, and it's important to apply as soon as you can so that you can secure your spot to apply for the school and the term that you've decided. Okay. Moving on to the next question. I want to pass the JLPT N5 this year. So for this one, you could study short term for 3 months as a tourist at one of our partnered language schools. But I would say in your case, maybe actually the JLPT study trip would be the best option for you. We have 2 JLPT study trips coming up this year, one in summer and one in winter. And at the moment, actually, if you apply before January 31st, you get a 24,000 yen discount. So it's a great discount, and I hope you can take advantage of that in January this year. What's great about the JLPT study trip specifically is that we will take care of the JLPT application paperwork that's involved for you. You'll be studying at one of our partner schools in the morning, and then in the afternoon you'll be able to participate in really fun activities. You'll then take the test in Japan, and then hopefully after 4 weeks you'll be returning back home with a new qualification. So that's really exciting, and I hope that is something you like to consider. Moving on to the next question. I want to be able to be fluent in Japanese. So Japanese, as I'm sure you all know, is one of the hardest languages to learn, especially for a native English speaker, just because it is so different. It's estimated that to become proficient, you need about 1.5 years to 2 years of intensive studying. And the result of this, the courses that are offered at our partnered language schools, they're typically structured to enable students to reach JLPT N2 level proficiency after completing about 1.5 to 2 years of language studies. Your progress is really going to differ depending on how much Japanese you already know before coming to Japan, and also how much study you can do at home, like outside of school hours. So yeah, we would definitely recommend applying for one of our more intensive language schools in this case, as well as maybe complete a beginner online course before coming to Japan, just to make sure that you can maximize your stay and also you'll have a head start on your studies. Okay. Next question was, I'm going to Tokyo in April. I want to be able to understand some survival phrases. So for this one, I think the Gogo Nihon crash course, that is a 2-week online course that we provide, would be a great option for you, because it's going to cover all the essentials that you need to be able to survive and get by during your stay here. It's also short enough for you to be able to do now before your trip, so that's also great. We actually have a discount code for anyone watching the live stream, and GGN Live, as Mara is showing on the screen right now. You will get a 5% off on all of our courses when you check out, so please utilize that as much as possible. And again, this is not specific to the crash course that I was mentioning. You can also get it for example, like the Akamonkai 12-week beginner course. For this person that's asked this question specifically, actually the Akamonkai 12-week beginner course could also be a great option for you, because if you're planning to come back again in Japan in the future, maybe long-term studies this time, the certificate that you will get upon completion of the Akamonkai course is going to be a great addition to your application. It's going to strengthen your application as well. So that's also an option to consider. The next question we received was, I want to visit Japan and be able to speak with the locals at a conversational level. For this one, I think we would recommend one of our partner schools that put a lot of emphasis on conversational Japanese. One really good example of this would be Sendagaya Japanese Institute. They have a campus in Komagome, and they focus a lot on conversational Japanese, so that would be a great option. There's also a lot of partner schools that provide opportunities for students to interact with Japanese locals, like Japanese high school students. So if conversational Japanese is something you want to focus on, definitely mention it in the contact form when you get in touch with us. And then the coordinator will be able to provide options that align well with your goals and your learning your learning goals, essentially. Okay. Am I speaking too fast? Is it okay? Sorry.
Do you want to take a bit of rest so I can start reply to some question on the
Yeah,
chat?
yeah.
Okay, so I already saw a bunch of very nice questions. I really love replying questions, so sorry for me being excited, but I will start with the first question is about sponsor. I saw some of you already kind of reply to this question to each other, but I want to give you wild overlook to the sponsor. So basically, for those that don't know, when you apply for a student visa in Japan, you are requested to show a sponsor. What is the sponsor? Is someone that can show they are able to support you during your studies here in Japan. And the sponsor can be the student itself or a family member. It's very important, and that is a relationship that is real and able to track, because immigration asks also for documentation that show the relationship. So, for example, if you present your sister, you will need to send relative documentation. If you send your father or your mother, you will need to send the birth certificate and so on. So we have these two cases when the student can be the sponsor or when the father or the family member can be the sponsor. What makes a sponsor a good sponsor? So the sponsor need to be able to show an annual income for the previous year. They need to be 2 million yen. That is roughly $14,000 with the current exchange, but it can change. So please keep in mind the 2 million yen as annual income. And on top of that, also a bank statement. The requirement amount can change according to the length of the study, but usually for 6 months of study is required at least 1 million yen. That is roughly 8,000. Sorry, too many numbers. $8,000 right now. So if the student itself can demonstrate this income and this bank statement, can show himself sponsor. If not, because maybe the student is currently in university or doesn't have enough saving, can also show a parent, a family member as sponsor. If the student itself doesn't have one parent or one sponsor that can fulfill this requirement, you can also show two sponsors. So there are cases where we have both the parents doing the sponsor. The important thing is that the sum of the tax return of both sponsors is 2 million yen, as we mentioned, for the tax return, and 1 million yen for the bank statement, at least, for the bank statement, yes. So this is the sponsor. We also have a blog article about this because we understand that it's not easy to understand, but basically the sponsor is someone that can provide for you during your study, because even if you can work part-time during your study here in Japan, you need to focus on study because you are in a student visa. So it's very important to focus on studies, and immigration will make sure that you have all the meaning necessary to live in Japan while living here. Then, sorry, I want to reply another question that I saw. Thank you. So I also saw you talking about the language requirement, the 150 hours. So as someone mentioned, it can depend on the school, but also on case by case, because we have some category of students that can get this request regardless the school, and there are maybe over 30 people that graduated more than 5 years ago, people that only have the high school diploma as the last degree. So it really depends, but you don't worry. As Layna already mentioned, when you get in touch with us, we will make sure to know your Japanese background and to recommend you the school that is more appropriate according to your goals and your actual like your profile. But also, if you have a school that requires these hours, we also can recommend you some online course or what you can do according to your profile to fit the school requirement. As Layna was mentioning, we have online courses that can provide you a certificate that is recognized by immigration to prove the study hour and so on. So don't worry, we will guide you picking the right school for you. And last question I will reply, then I will come back to you, sorry. I see some of you talking about housing in Japan and considering to stay in Airbnb while they are in Japan. So if you come in Japan with our service, we partner with foreigner-friendly accommodation that can provide for you share houses or apartment where you can live, and they are foreigner-friendly, so that means that they can speak English. So don't worry, you will not need to stay in a hotel or B&B at start. You can just pick the accommodation you want and start your journey with them without having them to move to the other accommodation. So don't worry, we will guide you and offer all the support you need. So back to you, Layna. So I will pick other questions.
Okay. So moving on with the questions we already received in the past few weeks. One of them is, it says, am I eligible to be my fiance's dependent while he studies at the language school? So for this one, I think I need to talk a little bit about the different kinds of student visas that exist. They are titled the same. They're both called student visas, but there's actually two different kinds. So the first one is the one that allows you to study as a student in Japan at a language school. And then the maximum permitted length on that visa will be 2 years. Whereas there's another one, also still called a student visa, but this one is offered by vocational schools and universities, so just higher education in Japan. Under the first type, so one that you would be using as a language school student, unfortunately, it does not allow you to sponsor a dependent. So if your fiance wants to enroll in a language school and you would like to be in Japan with them, then you would need your own visa arrangements in that case. On the other hand, the second visa, so the one you would be on while studying at university or vocational school in Japan, under certain conditions, you can sponsor a dependent visa. And we are partnered with some higher education institutions as well. So if this is something that interests the both of you, please let your coordinator know. And then when you get in touch, we can provide more detailed information on the option as well. Okay. And then we have a question, can I work in Japan to pay for my classes? This one, if you're in Japan as a tourist enrolled in a short-term course, then you cannot work part-time in Japan. However, on a student visa, you are able to legally work in Japan up to 28 hours per week. And that is actually one of the biggest advantages as well of studying in Japan on a student visa, because you are allowed to work. Many of our partner schools also offer part-time job support. So when I say support, I mean things like helping students prepare for interviews in Japanese or writing their resumes in Japanese. A lot of schools also post like local job advertisements as well in school. So that's really useful if you're looking to work in Japan while being a student. And a lot of our students can get jobs like teaching their native languages to Japanese students, or working at restaurants or cafes, convenience stores, things like that. I will say, though, it's really important to keep in mind that part-time employment typically is not going to cover your entire stay in Japan and all of your tuition costs. It can definitely help you, but it's not going to cover your entire stay. Also, when you apply for a student visa, as Mara already mentioned, you will need to submit financial documentation to prove that you can sustain a living here. If it's not yourself providing those documents, then it would be your sponsor. So just keep that in mind. You can apply for part-time employment as long as you're on a student visa in Japan, but just remember that sometimes it's not going to be enough to sustain a living fully. So that was that question.
Can I
Yes.
reply? Thank you. Is that they are making such good questions, so I want to jump in and reply. So someone is asking, has anyone visited the Japanese embassy before for a student visa? So for the student visa, you need to apply to a language school because you need a school to be the guarantor for your visa. What does it mean? It's not you by yourself applying for the student visa directly, but it's the school that is requesting your student visa to Japanese immigration here in Japan. So you need to prove all the documentation we spoke about before, like about the financial requirement and so on. And then the school will check them and send them to the immigration here in Japan to request your visa. Once here in Japan, the immigration check everything, and is everything okay, they will issue a document that is called Certificate of Eligibility. And with this document, you need to go to your local embassy, Japanese embassy, to convert it in the student visa per se. But you cannot apply for the student visa directly with the embassy, but it's the school that need to do this for you. So you will just convert your Certificate of Eligibility into the real, like the student visa itself. But you first need to apply for a school. This because, as we mentioned, is a student visa, so the school is the person that will be in charge of you while you are in Japan. So this is a very important step. So you will go eventually to the Japanese embassy, but only as a last step. And we will send you all the information you need, all the instruction you need in order to get your visa in the local embassy. Then another question we got, let me find it again. I lost it. A lot of people are talking about learning kanji, how important it is knowing kanji. So usually it's very important being in Japan because all the signs you have around you are in kanji, most of them. Some have also English translation, but there are very few on the station. And if you want to go to a restaurant, most of the restaurants don't have English menu sometimes. So you really need to make your best and understand kanji. But at the same time, when you come to study in Japan, the school already know which kanji you will see more often, and they will start teaching you from that. Of course, you need to review by yourself and so on. And speaking is very important, but if your goal is working in a Japanese company or going to university in Japanese, kanji are very, very important. So please don't, how you say it in English?
Underestimate.
Yes, that one. Thank you. So another question we got, we have a person that wants to apply for 6 months of student visa, but then he's asking if he can extend the visa once he's in Japan. Yes, this is actually possible, but you have to keep in mind a few points. First of all, the school needs to have a viability. So once you decide that you want to extend for longer, you need to inform your school as soon as possible so they can confirm you if they have spot left. Another thing that is very important is also your attendance rate and your grades, because if you are not attending the school or your grades are not very good, the school maybe cannot extend your study length, because you need to keep in mind that, as we mentioned already, it's very important, so I will stress this point a lot, your visa is tied to the school you apply for. So if you don't go to school, if your rates are not good, you will risk to lose your student visa. So you can extend, of course, but keep in mind that if you have a low attendance rate, low score, or the school doesn't have spots, maybe this is not possible. But if you are a good student and you are going to school every day, doing your homework and so on, you should not have problem beside the spot of the school. So as soon as you decide to continue your study, you can inform the school and they will tell you how to move on. So usually extended studies from Japan is very easy, and the procedure is way simpler than apply for the first visa. So I replied to the question I wanted, so I give the question back to you.
Okay, I wanted to also answer this one. It's, I want to start a career in Japan. What do I need? So to qualify for a work visa in general, you need to have a bachelor's degree, either obtained in Japan or outside of Japan, or a vocational school diploma, which needs to be issued by a vocational school in Japan. If you don't meet this requirement, you might be a little bit limited as to the employment that you can find in Japan after language studies. Even if you have a lot of working experience, it can be pretty tricky. But at the end of the day, really, the exact requirements are going to depend on your employer and also the kind of work that you're pursuing. So there's not really a clear answer I can give you, but I think in general, it's good to keep in mind, you should have a bachelor's degree or vocational school diploma obtained in Japan. If you have a high school diploma, for example, right now, and you haven't completed university studies, and you do decide that finding full-time employment in Japan is something you want to pursue, then you could also consider moving on to higher education in Japan after your language studies. And a lot of our partner schools actually offer support when it comes to moving on to higher education. A lot of students have this goal in mind when they enroll in language school, so they'll definitely be able to help you with that.
So I jump in again because I see some people are a bit confused about 2 weeks course, 6 month course. So I want to give you an overall how which are the option to study in Japan. So if you only can come for a few weeks, we have the study trips. They are from 2 up to 4 weeks, and you will have a Japanese lesson in the morning and activity in the afternoon. So you can know better also not only the language but also the culture. So this is for short period of time, and this is with tourist visa for most of people. You can get the tourist visa once you enter in the country, depending, of course, on your own country. Maybe you need to apply before, but you can reach us out and we will tell you what you need to do. Then another option that is also doable with the tourist visa is the 3 months course. So this course course lasts, as we say, 3 months, 10 weeks almost, and you will only have a language lesson, and they can be the morning or the afternoon according to your Japanese level. Activity are not included, but you can stay longer, and so you have a whole term to learn Japanese. And for those people that also want to work in Japan while they are studying, to see better if they can like it or not, there is the student visa application or long-term course. They are from minimum 6 months up to 2 years, according when you start the course. Another option, if in your country that exists, is the working holiday visa. You can use a working holiday visa to come in Japan and study, but this one is only up to 1 year. Because this is the visa limit. So these are all the options, just roughly, so you know you can stay in Japan from a minimum of 2 weeks to a maximum of 2 years, but it depends about your goals, what you want to do. So you can just contact us, telling us what is your goal at the end of the course, or what is your time frame, because maybe you are working, so you cannot stay too much long, but we can recommend you what to do. So please reach us out if you are not clear what to do. So back to you. Sorry.
Okay. So we also have received a question. Can foreigners enroll in universities in Japan? Do we need Japanese? So the short and sweet answer is yes, foreigners can enroll in universities in Japan. And actually, a lot of Japanese universities welcome international students. And the language requirements are going to vary depending on the program that you've applied for and the university itself. If you're looking to enroll in a Japanese-based program, so if you're going to be taking all of your courses in Japanese, then you will definitely need a certain level of Japanese to be able to apply. Most schools will require JLPT N2 level. And also you'll need to take the EJU, which is just the entrance exam to get into university. EJU, very complicated topic. Please have a look at our blog for more information. But it's essentially divided into multiple subjects. And then for the programs that are taught in Japanese, those will definitely be looking at your Japanese scores, the score that you get in the Japanese section of the EJU, to be able to judge whether you have enough Japanese to enroll in the course or not. Again, a lot of our partner schools can help with this. They can help students move on to higher education. They also offer elective classes specifically about the EJU to help students prepare for this exam. On the other hand, if you're interested in English taught courses, so your courses are all going to be offered in English, or maybe hybrid Japanese and English, for example, then the Japanese requirement would differ. A lot of schools, maybe they won't actually require you to have any Japanese, and they'll actually be looking to see how much English you know. And we're actually partnered with APU. It's a university that does just this. All of their courses are offered in English, or actually a hybrid of English and Japanese. It's a university. It's located in Beppu, which is like a really, really beautiful area in the south of Japan. And for this one, because it's an English-based degree, as I said, you won't be required to meet Japanese language requirements, but actually you would still take Japanese classes when you're enrolled. So it's really like the best of both worlds, because you get to study your degree in English while living in Japan, and then also taking Japanese classes while you're enrolled, so you can improve on your Japanese as well. Okay, so just to summarize, sorry, I think I went a little, I didn't really stick to the topic, but foreigners can apply for universities, and the specific language requirements will definitely depend on the course and the university that you apply for. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you very much, Layna. I got other question I want to reply to. Thank you. So we got a question about bringing pets in Japan. So technically it's possible, but we don't know the procedure. So you need to check with your local embassy what you need to do in order to bring your pet. And something I really need to share with you, I also love pets, and it's very difficult to find pet-friendly house in Japan. Most of our partners for accommodation, unfortunately, they cannot at this stage offer a lot of accommodation that are pet-friendly. Still, there are some options, but we right now cannot confirm that for your term you will come, they actually will have. So please, if you want to bring your pets, keep in mind, first of all, the accommodation, that maybe you will need to look also for something else, something that is not foreigner friendly, in order to find a solution. And usually for not foreigner friendly accommodation have very strict requirements about the contract. So please check it carefully. And another thing you need to keep in mind that you will spend at least 4 hours per day in your school. Plus maybe you will have a part-time job and stuff like that. So you will not be able to spend as much time as you like with your pet. So please be very careful when you bring a pet in another country, because it's a very stressful experience for them. And if you don't know how long you'll be here, only 6 months or 1 year, you need to consider several things. We have a blog article about that, so I really recommend you guys to check it out if you are really interested to bring your pet here. And another question we had is, do I need a sponsor also to apply for short-term course? This is a good question. Maybe it was not clear when I explained, so I want to remark it, because for us it's like, of course not, but I understand that because we work with this. So if you apply with a student visa, you need a sponsor. But for short-term course for 2 weeks up to 3 months, you don't need a student visa, you need a tourist visa. And for this type of visa, most of the time is not required a sponsor. It can depend on your country. Maybe you can have more requirement to apply for a tourist visa, but it really depends on the country. And I will tie myself to another question that we got from a student from El Salvador, I guess, that he says that unfortunately we cannot support them for the student visa application. As we mentioned, requirements change according to the case, and one of the cases is also nationality. So for some nationality, Japanese rule, immigration rule are very strict about what you need to present and in order to apply for the visa, and some nationality are very high rate of rejection of the visa. So when we are not sure, because we are not used to deal with this country, I highly recommend to check out with your local embassy, or if you have a local, support service for studying abroad that might know better about the stricter rule and give you higher chance to apply for a visa and get approval. So I'm sorry in this case, if you don't have another nationality that we can support you, you can maybe try other type of courses than the student visa. But yeah, usually it's like that, right, Layna?
Yeah. Or actually online courses as well. If you decide that you want to study Japanese, but you can't actually make it to Japan, then online courses.
With the discount code.
With the discount code. Okay. Can I go
Yes,
back?
please.
Okay.
I will look for other questions.
Some more questions from me. So this person says, I'm moving to Japan as I have an engineering job from the middle of March. I should be able to get my visa earlier, hopefully around the middle of February, and would like to find out if I could do a full-time language school there for a few weeks that I won't be working. So in your case specifically, definitely check with your employer whether it's okay for you to be coming to Japan a whole month before you're going to start working, because there might be some visa complications there. But if your employer says that that's fine, and you've confirmed with immigration as well, which I would recommend, then yes, you can study at a language school full-time for, I think, because you're coming in mid-February to mid-March, that would be around a month. You can do a 1 month study period at one of our partner schools, but it does depend on the availability of the school. Just because you're wanting to start mid-term, basically. If you remember, we talked about the 4 term starts. Those are January, April, July, and October. And if you want to study starting in mid-February, that doesn't really align with the course starts that most schools offer. We are partnered with schools that can help you, that can still welcome students midterm, but it does depend on their availability. And whether they have like space to be able to welcome new students. So again, definitely make sure to get in touch with a coordinator, and then we can inquire with our partner schools and see if they'll be able to accommodate your request. Okay.
Thank you, Layna. Sorry, I found more questions I want to reply to. So we got a very good question. So who checks if you study the Japanese hour they request? Good question. So both school and immigration check. Schools check by their side because it's something that immigration care about. So what happened is that sometimes the immigration, when they are checking a document, they can request, oh, okay, this student meets some requirements, so we want to see if the student studied Japanese in the past. And what does it mean? That in the middle of the application, we need to the school rush to contact us, we rush to contact you to provide some document of the sort. So to avoid this rushing, that is a bit stressful for both school and students, school now decide to check beforehand and to have all the document ready and to submit for the application, so the immigration doesn't have extra question. And to avoid, because usually immigration, if they have extra question, they are like, since I'm asking this, I will ask more information about this thing, and no one wants extra question from immigration. That's why the school are very careful checking this. So actually both check, but it's for you, for making everything easier and to make higher your chance to get approval. So I know that can be a bit boring because most of people think, okay, but I'm coming to Japan to study Japanese. Well, why should I need to know it already? Well, Japan is a country where with a bunch of sign, a bunch of rules, and knowing a bit of Japanese will also help you to not get overwhelmed when you are here. Because, for example, in my case, I already had studied Japanese in university before to come here, but in university we don't do much conversation on comprehension, at least in Italian university. I don't know about your countries, guy, but so when I first arrived, it was overwhelming, even for me that I already studied Japanese. So always knowing a bit of Japanese help you to feel better, and also more familiar that when you see something that you study and you recognize, you feel very well. So I really recommend you to, even if your school doesn't require it, can help you to feel better when you're in the country, and also to keep up better with lesson, to have already a Japanese knowledge. So to wrap up, both school and immigration check this to make your chance to get the visa higher. So it's something very important. And we also have another question. So they're asking for beginner. Oh no, it disappeared. What it is? Okay, I will try to remember it because it just disappeared from my screen. A person was asking about beginner. This person is on the side between ISI and ALA. So actually, the school you choose is depend more than on your level, on what is your goal and the intensity of the school you want. For example, the school you pick, they have very different intensity. So just to make give you some context, all Japanese language schools that can provide a student visa are intensive school, although intensity level can change according to the school. So ISI is a middle high intensity level, while ALA is a mid intensity level. What does it mean? That more a school is intensive and more time you have to consider for the private study at your home and homework. So you will have less free time to dedicate for visit the city or working part-time, but your progress will be quicker.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sounds a bit weird saying. Okay, sorry. And if you choose like a medium or low intensity school, of course you will not learn as fast as with other school, but you will have a bit more free time. So it really depends about which approach you prefer. Some people really don't like too intense school, and some others don't like not intense school. But we also check with this with you when you reach us out, so don't worry. And I lost all my questions, so please.
Okay, just add to that one that I was talking about like what level. Which school should I choose based off of my level? Actually, all the schools will have like a placement test at the beginning, or like once you've enrolled or right before you enroll, so that they can place you in a class that makes sense and that matches your current level of Japanese. So you don't need to think about, oh, I'm a beginner, so I want to go to a school that is going to be able to accommodate beginners, or I've already studied Japanese in the past, so I need to go to this school because they're able to teach higher intensity Japanese or whatever. So that's not really how it works. Just so you know, there will be a placement test at the beginning, so you don't need to choose a school based off of how much Japanese you know and what kind of level you're already at.
Sorry, I want to add something to this.
Yeah.
So as mentioned, I already had studied in university. So I started with a level that was already entry. But since it was only written, because as I mentioned, in my university, we didn't do enough listening or like speaking. So when I come here in Japan and I was enrolled in the school, did my test, actually I was placed in a slightly lower class, because even though my knowledge of kanji and grammar was okay, my speaking and understanding, like comprehension, was very bad. So the teacher, in order to not overwhelm me, because otherwise I will not understand or will be able to communicate in my class, they put me in a slightly lower class so I could focus, rather than writing, on speaking and understanding. So it can happen sometimes, so don't worry. If you want to be sure to be enrolled in a class that is which level you are now, before to come in Japan, review everything, but also do some exercise on speaking and comprehension, because it will count as well. So I want really to stress this, because I was a bit sad the first time, because I was like, I studied 3 years in university and now I'm here yet doing the same thing. But actually the first week was a bit stressing, like because I wanted to be in a higher class. But after a while I understand that was the best choice for me, because I couldn't speak anything or understand what they say to me. So it was better this way. But at the first is a bit like hit you hard. So just be ready. Don't worry. It can happen.
Okay. The next question I wanted to answer was, how can I teach English in Japan? This one, I guess, is a bit similar to one I already answered about working in Japan full time. But as I said in my previous answer, you will need a bachelor's degree or a vocational school diploma obtained in Japan in general. For teaching English specifically, there might be some other teaching qualifications like the TESOL or TEFL certificates. And if you currently don't meet those requirements, and or if teaching English as a full-time job is not something you're absolutely sure about and you want to try it maybe as a part-time job first, then you also have the option of maybe studying Japanese at a language school on a student visa. And then that way, as we said, you are legally allowed to work up 28 hours per week. So you could maybe take on an English teaching position part-time. And then maybe you decide this is what you want to do long-term and you really enjoy it and you want it to be your full-time job. Let's say maybe you currently only have a high school diploma and you don't meet the requirements to be able to apply, then you could start even considering moving on to higher education in Japan maybe, and get that bachelor's in Japan. And then that way you're one step closer to realizing your goal of actually teaching English full-time in Japan. Of course, if you already have the qualifications you need and you have a bachelor's and you have teaching certificates, then definitely you can do that. You just need to find an employer who is willing to sponsor your work visa and then take it from there.
Yeah. Thank you. I have another question. So we have some people from Europe that are following us. So I know that it's very, very late in the night. So I'm impressed. We have someone for Portugal, for example, and they ask if they can apply with us. Yes, you can. Please fill out the form. We have if you go to our website in the Portuguese, we have the Portuguese content. Yeah. And our Portuguese team will be more than happy to reply to you and follow your application according with which program you want to apply. And we got another question about how the sponsor works. So for people that maybe didn't understand the first time, or I understand it's a very difficult topic actually. So I will try to explain again shortly. So the sponsor for the student visa, let's remark is for the student visa, is someone that will be able to support you during your studies in Japan. This can be yourself if you have a full-time job and like enough saving, or if you don't have the requirement, you can ask to a family member to be your sponsor. And as we mentioned before, the requirement to be a sponsor are a tax return of 2 million yen, and bank statement. It depends about how long you apply, but usually for 6-month course is at least 1 million yen. So these are the basic requirements. If you don't meet the requirement, you can ask to a family member to help you to be your sponsor. If you don't have one family member that by itself can meet this requirement, you can ask 2 family members to be your sponsor. And in this case, both of the sum of the tax return and bank statement need to be 2 million yen for tax return and 1 million yen for bank statement. We have a blog article about this, so if you still have like a bit of question or it's not very clear, I recommend to read it or check it, because sometimes when someone speaks, you see, oh, maybe I understood, and after a while you're like, what did they say? So check the blog article. So is everything written, and you can double check. And if you have every question, please reach us out with the contact form. We will explain it to you with no problem. So please.
Yeah. Okay. So the next question I have is, I want to improve my Japanese so that I can work in a Japanese company. I think we talked a lot about our partners that offer support for students moving on to higher education and finding part-time employment. But we're actually also partnering with schools that can help students specifically find full-time employment in Japan. A really good example of this would be ISI Shibuya, ISI Harajuku. They're two different branches of the same school. And what makes this school unique is that they actually specifically focus on business Japanese and also like Japanese business etiquettes. They also offer like one-on-one career counseling as well. So again, whenever you send in an inquiry form, just make sure to specify, or even if you don't do that in the first inquiry form, just make sure to communicate with your coordinator that finding full-time employment is something that is your long-term goal, and then we can provide some school options for you, like ISI Harajuku or ISI Shibuya, that can really help students achieve those goals.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Layna. So we got a very nice question about online courses. So the 12-week course program, I work a full-time job and have other duty. I might be only to commit 2 hours a day. Is that okay? So how does the course work? So basically, this the beginner course, but also the intermediate and pre-intermediate. We have pre-recorded lessons, so you can study at your time. You will get the weekly lesson on the same week, but you can decide how to split your time to study. So you can study at your own pace, is no problem. And so usually this course is the favorite of those people that have work and other duties to do, so they cannot stick to a time like in a language school. And another thing, even though the course is designed to be completed in 12 weeks, you will be able to access the content up to 6 months. So this is very useful because in your case, you don't have that much time. Maybe it can take a bit longer for you to complete it, but it's not a problem at all, since you will have 6 months to complete it. So that will be a great chance for you. And don't forget, you get the discount with this. So wait, no. So please don't forget the discount using this code. So if you want to know more about the courses or the bundles we have, please reach us out and we will tell you more.
Yeah, I think actually I've answered all the questions we received prior to the live stream, so we can focus on the ones that we're receiving now.
Okay, perfect. So sometimes my chat gets updated and I lost the question I was looking at, so I need to look for them again.
There's someone asking about, can I work and study at the same time? This is, I guess, related to the part-time work eligibility that we talked about already, but you can work and study at the same time if you're on a student visa. We talked also about short-term courses, so I do want to specify, if you're here on a short-term course as a tourist, then you can't work and study at the same time. But as a student on a student visa, you can, and the maximum permitted hour per week is 28 hours. So don't go above that, also because it's going to be really, really difficult to balance your studies and work at the same time. As Mara mentioned, your school is your visa's sponsor, essentially. So you need to make sure that as someone on a student visa in Japan, studying is your first priority. And then, yes, of course, you can also work part-time as well on the side. And sometimes that can also be helpful because you can use the Japanese that you're learning at school in real life and kind of like interact with Japanese people more as well. So just to answer your question again, it is possible to work and study at the same time.
Thank you, Layna. So I want to reply another question we got. Is 22 too old to go to language school first and vocational school and then vocational school? So it depends about you, your goals, and what you want to do after. So consider that if you are a totally beginner, it will take you 2 years to complete the language course, plus vocational school usually lasts 2 years. So in total of 4 years to complete your studies. So it depends actually on you and what is that you want to do next. Actually, we got students also older that did that with no problem. But actually, since we are not like, usually the student once they are here, they just do their life. So I cannot tell you what they did, if they did this to come back to the country, if they did this and then found a job here. Just to give you an understanding, like usually vocational school as university helps students to find a job. Those that want to, of course. We cannot guarantee either the school that you will 100% find a job, but usually it's very useful, this service. You can use it. So if your goal is staying long term here, usually we recommend to study the language, and then from the language school move on to higher education to have higher chance to find a job in Japan and get ready to the job environment, let's say. So back to you.
I also see a question. This person is asking, when you've submitted all of the information needed for the application, how long does it take to hear back so you can start you can start the move and get accommodation? So as I said, it will take 6 months to start and complete an application if you're applying for a student visa. And I guess at the very beginning, the 6-month mark is when you're going to be submitting your documentation and the information you'll need. And then actually there is quite a little bit of a waiting period where your application is going to be reviewed by Japanese immigration. And then moving on to like sorting out and arranging accommodation, that's going to come closer to the time of your arrival. To be more specific, it's usually around 1.5 months before your term starts. So just to answer your question, you'll be submitting your application around 6 months prior to the term start, and then around 1.5 months prior to the term start, that's when you can start actually making accommodation arrangements. That being said, the whole time in between, you can definitely do your research and have a look at our accommodation page that we have on our website. It gives more details as to like what kind of accommodation is available. Like some partners can provide private apartments, others have share houses. You can also look into homestay. So yeah, just during that period, the waiting period, definitely do your own research, have a look at like the prices, the price range and stuff like that, so that when it is time to actually start applying, you have a good idea of like what your preferences are, and that way the application process for accommodation will also be faster as well.
I want to reply to 2 questions. So before I lost the comment, but I remember I read it. Someone asked more information about how share houses work. So basically, share house is a very big apartment with bunch of rooms where you can have your own room or share with someone else, but other space like kitchen, living room and stuff like that, they are shared with other people. And usually this is the favorite type of accommodation for our students, because while allow them to save some money in the rent, at the same time allows them to know more people outside of the language course, because of course you will make a bunch of friends during your studies with people in your class. But share house is a way to make more friends even outside your class or from other school and stuff like that. So usually they are very popular among our students. And then this was asked also someone before, but I missed that, sorry. And someone is asking again. So they're asking if it's possible to apply for a student visa while they are in Japan with a tourist visa. So technically, you can start the application while you're here with a tourist visa, but please keep in mind that you will need to submit some documents, so maybe you will not have them here with you. So you have to have someone in your country able to share this document with you to send to us. And also, please keep in mind that it's not possible to convert the tourist visa on student visa directly. So to make an example, if you want to start the course on July 2024, you cannot come in here before July and stay here and then pass from a tourist to a student visa, because you need to convert your, as we mentioned, COE, certificate of eligibility, and this cannot be done in Japan. Japanese immigration requires that this document is converted abroad, outside of Japan. What does it mean? that you need to or come back to your country, or in the past there have been some cases where students maybe were here for holiday right before to come to study, but they needed to leave the country and go to a close country, for example Korea, to get it converted. But please keep in mind that before to do that, you need to reach out the embassy in Korea or the country where you are planning to go before to come to Japan, to ensure with them that you can do this conversion, because some embassy only allows people from that country to do the conversion, and this is a thing that decide each embassy by themselves. So we cannot confirm this information, but you can call them and check with them what you need and if it's possible, and then this is a chance. But the best way usually is coming from your own country, of course. But just in case you already book a flight, like a trip before to apply for a student visa, this is still okay. But keep in mind that among the document we ask, the immigration actually asks for the visa application, there is also the proof of past travel in Japan. So if you are planning to come, we will ask you most likely to send us also the etiquette from the flight that you will arrive and you will leave, so we can show to immigration that you will not do overstay or do something illegal. Like overstay or convert to the visa here. That is not possible. So just keep in mind that it's possible, but be careful. And if you have this idea, please reach us out, let us know so we can advise you in the best way possible. Don't worry.
Yeah, I think in general, any questions you have about like converting a visa, those are really, really tricky. And there are a lot of things that we have to confirm with you first before being able to give you a proper answer. So for example, like if you're in Japan on a work visa at the moment, you're looking into studying at a language school, you want to convert your work visa to a student visa. A lot of cases it is possible, but there are so many things that come into play and so many things we'll need to confirm with the school before being able to give you an answer. So even if you're not sure, like you're just considering it at the moment, maybe you're working and you're maybe thinking about studying Japanese, or maybe you're here on a working holiday visa and you're considering studying Japanese, any of those kinds of cases, just get in touch and we'll be able to give you more information. And yeah, maybe I can also answer this one. Jella says, does the study trip school provide the tourist visa for me, or do I have to get it myself? I've never done anything like this before. So if you're going to be here as a tourist, either participating in one of our study trips or on a short-term course at one of our language schools, most likely you do not need to apply. I think someone actually answered you and said, if you have a US passport, then there's nothing to worry about, and that's correct. There's actually, you can also check out the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Japan. Just type it in Google and you'll see they actually have a portion of their website that lists all the nationalities that are exempt for needing to apply for a student visa. That need to apply for a tourist visa. I'm also getting confused. And there are a lot. It just make sure that you are your nationality is listed, and that means that you can enter Japan without having to apply for a tourist visa beforehand. And everything should be smooth.
Yeah, you also can check with your coordinator if you're already in touch with us and you are not 100% sure. You can always ask us and we will let you know or send you the link to double check, wherever, don't worry. I see two questions that I'd like to reply, sorry. So the first is about how long will it take to reach N1? So let's start saying that the level you can reach really depend from several things, like your current level, the intensity of school you choose, how you are studying, if you study after the class, and so on. So usually we say, and already Layna probably mentioned before, that for a beginner to reach the level N2, are required 1.5 years of study in Japan in a middle intensive school. But of course it can change. We also have students that maybe in 1 year they reach N1, because after the lessons they also study by themselves. So of course it really depends about you and your motivation and so on. But if you want to have an idea, maybe you can consider like from 1.5 years, 2 years to reach N1. But of course, as we mentioned, it really depends on how much you study, the intensity of the school you choose, and so on. Another question I'd like to reply, but I lost it again. What was it? Please move on if you find something.
I have one. So this person says, I'm going to apply for April course to 2025. I will apply this April, but I have until November to hand in my bank statement, right? So your understanding about the 1 year prior to the term start is when you can start your application. That's perfect. You're aiming for April 2025, so we can get your application started in April 2024. The deadlines really depend on the school, but in general, it's 6 months before your term starts. So you're aiming for April 2025. That means by October of 2024. Did I say that right?
Yes.
You're aiming for April 2025. So by October 2024, you should be able to submit all of the documentation, including the bank statement. I'm assuming that you want to sponsor your own application, and that's why you're wanting you're thinking about like when you need to submit your bank statement. But as Mara explained before, there is the option of having a direct relative sponsor your application instead. So if by October, when your school's deadline's coming up and you can't provide a bank statement that meets the requirements, then definitely have a talk with a direct family member and instead have them be your sponsor for your application. It's just on paper. It doesn't mean that that sponsor is going to have to provide you with money every month to help you with your living in Japan. If you have the money yourself, that's totally fine to do by yourself. But for the application, you do need someone that meets the annual income, bank statement, work experience requirements on paper for your application.
Thank you, Lena. So I think we are close to the time we should finish. So let's say that we will pick 6 questions from now on.
Mm-hmm.
And when we finish those six questions, we are done.
Okay.
And speaking of which, I have 2 questions I would like to reply. So you can look for your question in the meanwhile. So when you are, when you have submitted all the information needed for the application, how long does it take to hear back so you can start to move and get accommodation? So this one actually is a bit tricky. So as we mentioned, the application process starts 6 months before, and we need to check your document, and then the school needs to check your document. But once the school say, okay, you already kind of know that it will be okay. And the accommodation, as Layna mentioned, maybe it's the same question you already replied. Could it be?
I don't think so. Oh, and you submitted all the information.
I don't know. We'll say it again. It's not too much. So sorry if I'm repeating myself, but just to be clear. So 6 months before you get the okay from the school, usually you send the document. They take some time to come back to us and confirm if they need more information or not. Once your application is confirmed, approved from the school, they will submit everything to the immigration. And the next step is paying the app fee. And then, as Layna mentioned, 1.5 months before of the course, the term start, you can start looking for accommodation. In the meanwhile, you can start looking for accommodation, but also, very important, review your Japanese if you already study, or just start to study hiragana and katakana. So don't worry, 6 months look like a lot of time. I know it, because when I applied the first time, I was like, oh, now I need to wait 6 months to come to Japan. It's so much you need to do, and we will guide you every step of the way. So don't worry, but there is so many things you need to do that 6 months will fly by. So between looking for the accommodation, prepare your stuff, review your Japanese, you will be very busy, and we will send you all the information. And this question, I will connect with another question we got, that is, how long time does it take for this certificate of eligibility to arrive after school send it? So now immigration changed a bit the thing. So in the past, all the school needed to send the physical certificate to student in order to apply for, like, to convert it to the student visa. Now immigration decided to get a bit more in this century. So you are able to convert it using the digital copy in some case. Still, some school will send it to you, because it depends about the type of COE, but don't worry, we will explain everything when the time comes. So usually you can convert it with the digital copy, and in case you will need the physical one, when the school ship the copy of the COE, we will send you also the tracking number, or maybe the shipping company will send you a message saying that they are sending it. The time of arrival really depends about your country. For example, in Europe, usually it arrives in 3 working days. If you are living in South America, for example, it can take up to 10 days. It really depends, but don't worry, you will have the tracking number, and you will be able to see more or less when it will arrive. And you need to prepare a bit of stuff before, but we will send you all the instruction to get ready. So once your COE arrive, you just need to take an appointment and go to convert it. So don't worry. And I will leave the word to Layna for the last few questions. Yeah, I lost track. Sorry.
Yeah, this person is asking, is 2 years of employment absolutely necessary, or can you just flat out pay for everything at once? This one I think I can break down into two different questions. So, is 2 years of employment needed to sponsor yourself for your application? That is desired for sure, and some schools are really, really strict about this. And you do need to meet that requirement to be able to self-sponsor, or actually your sponsor needs to meet that requirement as well to be able to sponsor you on paper. But it's not always the case. Sometimes certain schools, also depending on what kind of work experience you've had in the past, might be able to accept a sponsor that hasn't been working or is currently not working. But that's quite a rare case. I can give you an example. So for example, if maybe someone has been working for 10, 15 years of their life, but then they recently quit their job to start preparing for their studies in Japan. In that kind of case, maybe it would be okay, because even though you're not employed at the moment, your previous work history might be able to cover for that. It really depends on the application, but I would say it's safer to just take it as one of the three requirements. So the bank statement, the annual income, and then the work experience. Those three are the biggest requirements that you should be able to meet. So don't think too much about maybe ways to go around it, because a lot of the times schools are pretty strict about this. And then about the payment method, usually tuition is paid in 6 months installments. So it's kind of related to what Mara said about like studying for 6 months and then deciding to extend your studies. This is also part of it, because the school will request tuition payment for your first 6 months of studies. And then if you decide you want to extend your studies, then around 1 month before, you'll be given a new tuition invoice where you'll pay for an extra 6 months of tuition fees, if that makes sense. So it's not like you have to pay for your entire course before you even come to Japan or anything like that. Usually you can just pay for the first 6 months and then decide if you want to extend after that and pay another invoice. Yeah.
So I will reply to another question. So I would like to apply for July, but every time I go through the application, I just get an email with the resources to read. What should I do? Read the resource. That's very important, because everything we send is very, very important for you in order to pick the school, choose the term. So I know that this so many information. Sometimes I know, I've been through that, but it's very important. So you can read it through at the same time, or maybe I understand that maybe you receive everything, but you want to move on with the application. So you can read little by little while you wait for our replies. And in the meanwhile, reply to the question. Usually we always end the mails with some question for you to help you to decide the school and so on. So you can just skip to the questions while you take your time to read, but you have to read. Please read it. You reply to our questions so we can guide you through the school. If you already decide the school and the term, you can just reply, look, I already know the school and the term when I want to apply. And we will still make some questions to make sure that this is really the right choice for you. Because, for example, if you pick a school where they don't have conversation, but you go to conversation, then we have a problem, right? So we will just check some things before to convert you. And then once you pick the school and the term, we will give you access to our online portal where we will handle the application, ask you for the document you need to upload. You will need to fill some forms and so on. So if you already have received our message, please reply to the message you received telling that you want to apply for July so we can move on. Because as you know, people, or you maybe don't know, right now we are processing a July 2024 application.
2024.
Okay. Oh, sorry, I'm confused.
We talk too much about the future.
Yeah. Planning ahead is
it's important.
so important. So you can contact us now for July. Even if you are interested in October 2024 or January 2025, you are able already to reach us out, pick the school, and move on with the process. So don't worry. And before there was a comment, someone was not sure if pick in July or October. So the term you choose really depends on your final goal, but also on how long you want to study in Japan. For example, in most of the school, if you start the course in July, you will be able to study up to 1 year and 9 months. But starting in October, the maximum length is 1 year and 6 months. So the longer you want to be able to stay in Japan, maybe it's better to apply earlier. So if you want to have the chance to extend your application, your course up to 1 year and 9 months, even if now you are thinking, okay, for now I want to be 6 months, but maybe in the future I would like to extend for longer, you can choose July. If you really don't know or really want to do only 6 months, October as well can work, but it also depends about your goals. So please contact us, guys, so we can help you to pick the best term for you according to your goals. And I guess we have 2 questions left.
Yeah, maybe just adding to what Mara just said, I'm not sure if we mentioned that we're currently accepting applications for July 2024.
We are
October 2024.
So this is the moment.
This is the moment to apply. You'll see a deadline on our website, which is April 3rd. We are currently accepting applications for July 2024, but then each school's specific deadline is going to differ. So make sure to get in touch as early as possible so we can tell you, oh, maybe because your goal for learning Japanese is this school might be a good fit for you. And then we can also give you the school-specific deadline so you have enough time to prepare, pay the application fee, and submit your application before the deadline. So yeah, I just wanted to add, we are accepting applications for July 2024, also October 2024. And if you remember, because we can start accepting applications 1 year prior to the term start, we're also able to accept January 2025 applications as well. If you're interested in any terms in the future, like beyond January 2025, you can still, of course, send in an inquiry and just ask for more information, and we can provide you with that as well. And I guess the last question that I will answer is it true all student visas last only 1 year, then we have to renew it? Most of the time, student visas are issued for 1 year and 3 months. And then it is true that if you want to extend your studies beyond that, you have to renew it. But the school actually takes care of all the paperwork for you. They'll tell you, hey, your visa is probably going to run out soon, so we need to go to immigration and extend it. Do you want to extend it? And you'll have that conversation with the school staff. So you don't need to worry too much about what you have to do specifically. It's a conversation that you'll have with your school, and they'll definitely talk to you when the time comes.
I want to add something also. So as Layna mentioned, even students they apply for 6 months, sometimes they get 1 year or 1 year and 3 months visa. Although, in order to be in Japan for the entire length of your visa, you need to keep going to the school because, as we mentioned in the previous episode, the school is your guarantor. So your visa is tied to the school you apply for. You cannot stay in Japan without attending the school because this is illegal. And then you will have problem in the future if you want to apply for a work visa or the student visa. So please keep this in mind. It's possible to extend your visa, but you need to confirm that, like, to extend also your studying course because the studying visa is for studying. I really like to stress this point. So please keep this in mind. And as she says, it's very simple. The school help you. They tell you which document you need to give them, and it's very more easier. It's easier than applying for the first time. So don't worry. Now we will ask you a bunch of things for the first application because it's what we need to get you approved. But we will follow you each step of the way. And since we can communicate directly with you, it's very easy to understand which document you need and which you don't need according to your case. So it will seem like a lot, but actually it's not. Don't worry. We are helping you to make things easier. Okay. So I think we have one question left.
I can't see any that we haven't answered yet, but was there anything else that you wanted to cover?
I think we are good, maybe.
Yeah.
So I think we managed to reply to your main question, guys. If we didn't reply to some of your questions, we are very, very sorry, but you can always write to us in the contact form on our website. So please don't hesitate and reach us out, okay?
Yeah, and maybe we also
remind if you want to study online, we have the discount code.
Just because this is specific to this live stream, so if you made it this far and you joined, thank you so much, and hopefully you can make use of this code as well.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much for joining, and talk soon in the inquiry stage.
Hope to see you in Japan. Bye.
Bye-bye.